Since Shunick disappeared 3 months ago, hundreds of volunteers have given their time and money to help find her. The Volunteer Search Center has been open every day since Shunick disappeared. But all that will change tomorrow when they finally close shop for good. The goal for volunteers was to bring Mickey home all along, and they've helped achieve that goal. Shunick's family tells us her body will hopefully be released to them sometime next week.
When we can stop crying, we want to celebrate her life with the kind of things she would like: music, dancing, fun, pictures, stories.
They are planning a private memorial service, as well as a public celebration of Mickey's life.
We want to send her off with a bang, and she would be really embarrassed by all of it, but she's not here to complain, so that's what we're going to do.
Now that the Volunteer Search Center is in the process of closing, they're asking for one more favor from the community. Any of those flyers that are hung up around town, they ask that if you see them, please take those down and dispose of them. Reporting live from the Mickey Shunick Volunteer Search Headquarters, Stephen Alberton, KATC TV3.
Thank you, Stephen. We now turn to the details of Brandon Laverne's confession.
We do want to warn you, though, the details are quite graphic. Jim Hummel starts off with what happened in the Mickey Shunick case and continues tonight's team coverage.
Brandon, you killed Mickey Shunick. Anything you want to say to the Shunick family?
In handcuffs, Brandon Laverne had nothing to say as he was led into the Lafayette Parish Courthouse. In court, graphic and grim details were revealed on both the Mickey Shunick and Lisa Pate cases. With the Shunick case, it started with that early morning and now fateful bike ride home. It's the last image of Mickey Shunick, 1:48 in the morning, May 19th, just after she crossed University Avenue onto St. Landry Street. Moments before this image was taken, Brandon Laverne was on University Avenue. He was in Lafayette much of the night calling escort services. But when he saw Mickey cross University, he changed lanes and turned down St. Landry, following Mickey on her bicycle. He followed Mickey to the end of St. Landry, here between Dean Street and Coliseum Road, where he hit her. The impact threw her from her bicycle. Armed with a knife and a semi-automatic handgun, Laverne was able to get Mickey into his truck. In the truck, Mickey tried to call 911, but Laverne threatened her with the knife. Mickey pulled out her mace. Mickey was able to get Laverne's knife, stabbing him several times, wounds that would later be called life-threatening. But Laverne was able to get the knife back from Mickey, stabbing her at least 4 times. She fell over, seemingly lifeless. With Mickey still in the passenger seat, Laverne then drove to a cane field in northern Acadia Parish, more than a half-hour away, with the intent of dumping Mickey's body. But when he came to a stop, Mickey suddenly jumped up. Knife in hand, she lunged at Brandon Laverne, stabbing him in the chest. But you'll remember, Laverne had a gun. He fired at once, hitting Mickey in the head, killing her instantly. Rather than dumping the body, Laverne then drove to his home in St. Landry Parish with Mickey still in the passenger seat. Once home, he nursed his wounds, threw out his clothes, and cleaned out his truck. He then drove Mickey to that old cemetery up in Evangeline Parish, but because of wounds from the struggle with Mickey, he was not physically able to bury her body. Instead, he covered her with branches and debris. Before sunrise, Laverne was on his way to New Orleans to visit a friend, dumping Mickey's bicycle in Whiskey Bay along the way. While in New Orleans, Laverne was treated for his injuries at Ochsner Medical Center, and it's in New Orleans where Laverne disposed of his gun and knife. The next day, Sunday, May 20th, Laverne returned to that cemetery to bury Mickey's body. It's there where Mickey would remain for 80 days. The confession in the form of that plea deal was read out loud in a packed courtroom by lead prosecutor Keith Stutz. When the most grim details were revealed, there were cries and gasps by Mickey's family and friends. Brandon Laverne swayed nervously, at times looking straight down.
Do you have anything to say to the Shunick family?
Laverne again had nothing to say as he left court to serve out 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. He's now in Angola, where he'll spend the rest of his life. But on the other side of the courthouse, despite those heart-wrenching details, those closest to Mickey found some solace. An end to one kind of agony with answers. Peace in knowing Mickey is now home. And pride, knowing Mickey put up a fight right until the end.
She went down swinging with every little bit of energy she had left. And she'd have killed him if she could. The mighty Mick.
In Lafayette, Jim Hummel, KTC TV3.
Friends and family of Mickey Shunick say they weren't surprised she fought back, and although they were prepared for a deal, many of the details were still unknown. KATC's Janice Fernandez has more.
In court, Mickey's family waived their right to make a victim impact statement. But afterwards, they told us that Laverne gave them a letter. It was handwritten and sealed, but they don't know if they plan on opening it. When Assistant District Attorney Keith Stutz gave details on how Mickey was killed, there were gasps and sobs from those who knew Mickey. But Mickey's father, Tom, says he's satisfied with the plea deal, in which Laverne will serve life in prison with hard labor. Tom Shunick says he didn't want to wait years for a trial.
DA met with us a week ago or so and, discussed this, and before I could say a word when he brought this on the table, Nat says, I want the body found now.
From the beginning, it's been find Mickey, bring Mickey home.
The Shunick family says the love and support from the community has been overwhelming. They're thankful for everyone who worked hard to try and bring Mickey home. They say it's that support that has helped them get through this. In the studio, Janice Fernandez for KATC TV3.
Shunick's older sister, Charlie, who led the charge in bringing Mickey home, was not in court today. She returned to Texas, where she's in school, shortly after her sister's body was found. But Charlie did have this statement. One of her friends read it today outside the courthouse.
Shunick was a warrior. If it wasn't for her, our community would never have been able to bring down a dangerous man that harmed multiple people.
Along with a guilty plea in the Shunick murder, Laverne also pled guilty in the 1999 murder of Lisa Pate. Court documents show Laverne told other inmates about how he killed Lisa.
The two met in Lafayette, where Laverne convinced Pate to leave with him. The second time, they met in a Lafayette hotel. Laverne persuading her to go to another location outside Lafayette. They were together for several days, but when Pate wanted to return to Lafayette to see her children, Laverne would not let her leave. As he slept, Pate tried to secretly take Laverne's keys and wallet, but Laverne woke up and attacked her. Now, during that same struggle, Laverne's former inmates say he told them he placed a plastic bag on Pate's head and choked her. Court documents say he did so with the intent to kill or do at least great bodily harm. Lisa Pate fought back in that attack.
Laverne then moved her body to Acadia Parish, where he placed the body under a pile of wood behind the house of a former acquaintance to deflect suspicion from himself. On September 21, 1999, Pate's body, along with the remnants of a plastic bag, was found with skull fragments consistent with what Laverne told former inmates. Those inmates were willing to testify that Laverne confessed to them, but when Laverne copped a plea to avoid the death penalty, their statements weren't required. The Pate family chose not to comment after Laverne's guilty plea in court today.
Just hours after pleading guilty to the murders, Brandon Laverne was moved to the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola. He officially became an inmate at 3:40 this afternoon. Prison officials say they will decide whether to place him in solitary confinement or in the general population, but that decision will be based on several factors, including Laverne's demeanor upon his arrival today. He will serve the rest of his life in prison at hard labor with no chance of probation or parole.